Heard all across the United States, Canada, and around the world. Here's Hank Hanegraaff.
Thank you very much, Randy. On the last broadcast, I was talking about the fact that the prayer of Jesus, the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples to pray, is not a prayer mantra. It is a prayer manner. It's a means by which we can step out of the shallow tide pool of our own hearts and plunge into the unbounded ocean of uncreated energy. It's a means by which we may transcend surface things and experience union with God, the very thing that we were created for. The prayer of Jesus, or the Lord's Prayer, provides the doorway into an ever-deepening experience with God. And going deep involves, well, it actually involves making a major paradigm shift, a paradigm shift in our perception of prayer. Rather than finding techniques through which we can get God to meet our perceived needs, the Lord's Prayer is a means by which we may attain a level of intimacy that we may perhaps never before have even imagined. The Bible, it never encourages us to stamp out the self like the Buddhists do. It does, however, exhort us to stamp out selfishness. Genuine prayer, it's not found in our noisy askings and gettings. It is experiencing intimacy with the lover of our souls. Submersion into what I was talking about before as the divine nature. And our precious Lord provided the archetypal entryway for doing that very thing. Many years ago, I mentioned a prayer on the Bible Answer Man broadcast. I wrote about it in some of my books. It was the way in which Dr. Adolph Saphir talked about prayer, the way he prayed, and what he said about the Lord's Prayer. And that became so memorable, so impactful for me, that I actually took the time to memorize it. His words about the Lord's Prayer are poignant and profound. He said it is the model prayer, and as such, commends itself to the most superficial glance, approves itself at once to the conscience of man. It's beautiful and symmetrical, like the most finished work of art. The words are plain and unadorned, and yet majestic and so transparent and appropriate that once fixed in the memory, no other expressions ever mix themselves up with them.
Is the Bible truly the Word of God? Read Hank Hanegraaff's book, Has God Spoken? Click on the eye above.
The very thought of substituting other words never even enters the mind. Grave and solemn are the petitions, and yet the serenity and tranquil confidence, the peace and joy that they breathe, prove attractive to every heart. The prayer is short, so it can be quickly learned, easily remembered, and frequently used. But it contains all things pertaining to life and godliness. In its simplicity, it seems adapted purposely for the weakness of the inexperienced and ignorant, and yet none can say that he is familiar with the heights and the depths that it reveals, with the treasures of wisdom it contains. It is calm. It is suited to the even tenor of our daily life. And yet, in times of trouble and conflict, the church has felt its value and power. More especially, the church has discovered anew that it anticipates every difficulty and danger, that it solves every problem, and that it comforts the disciples of Christ in every tribulation of the world. It's the beloved and revered friend of our childhood. It grows with our growth, a never-failing counselor and companion amid all the changing scenes of life. And as in our lifetime, we must confess ourselves to be only learning the high and deep lessons of these petitions, so it will take eternity to give them their answer. While the prayer Jesus taught his disciples to pray is frequently the entryway into prayer, it is not the only way. Another way to organize your prayer time is around what I call the FACTS prayer guide, FACTS. You might imagine, if you've followed my ministry for any number of years, that this is an acronym, but it's a very useful acronym. I use it every single day.
Access more than 1,500 free articles on Christianity, cults, and aberrant religious teaching. Go to equip.org or click on the eye above.
It is so helpful to me. So I start every single day, before I even get out of bed, praying the Lord's Prayer. I have to amend that remark a little bit in saying that I seek to start every single day with the Lord's Prayer. And most mornings, I do that very thing. It becomes an entryway into what I'm talking about now, this FACTS prayer guide. It becomes a way to replace merely snorkeling in the surface waters of prayer. It provides a means by which you can dive deep beneath the tumult and turbulence of the ocean surface to a place that is silent and serene. A place in which your harried requests may give way to the quiet of union with the lover of your soul. Deep. Deep is where you can step out of the shallow tide pool of your own heart into the boundless heart of God, the boundless ocean of His power and presence. It is where you can go beyond surface things and plunge into a profound experience with your Creator. To be honest, I have to confess I learned to pray backward. I rushed into God's presence with a laundry list of prayer requests and then rushed back into my frenzied lifestyle. Quite frankly, I treated my Lord with even more impatience than I oftentimes treat treasured loved ones. In short, I was in desperate need of a paradigm shift in my manner of prayer. I needed to make prayer a priority and to realize that prayer is a power source without which I would soon go dark. And thereafter, I desperately needed a secret place, a place where I could withdraw from the invasive sounds of the world and tune into the sounds of another dimension.